Hello, I'm John Thorne from Silverstone Shooting Centre and welcome to our new studio. It's actually not a studio, it's actually our gun room where we do all our custom builds of race guns for people. But we thought we'd start doing some filming in here because we're going to start doing a lot more technical features about some of the new guns and some of the new things that we are working on. So we've got a little studio and it's nice and quiet and hopefully no phone calls will go off because you can't get signal in here. I hinted last couple of videos about that we and I personally have changed my competition gun from a Smith & Wesson to a Kriss. So I thought it's worthwhile perhaps explaining why and also going through some of the details and some of the things we do to them to make them really race ready. It's a slight different one here in as much that at the moment I'm going to be shooting the DMK, which used to be called the Defiance, but there's still a fly in the ointment of whether or not I start to use the Kriss Vector, which as I've done other videos say I really think could be very suitable for a race gun. However, it's still early days in the Vector. We're still waiting for 30 round mags to turn up, so until they do turn up it's going to be a bit of a wait and see on the side for the moment. But for the moment I have been shooting the DMK for the last few months now, and we've got to a point in time where I think I'm happy with the upgrades that we can start to release them to members and to other shooters, which is obviously a main part of what we do. But first of all, I'm not going to go through a unboxing and the details of the DMK. It's been done lots of times before. The breakdown's nice and simple and straightforward, but it's worthwhile just explaining in terms of standard rifle and then what we do for the upgrades and what we do for racing, which is competition. Sorry, he's calling it racing. So standard DMK, there are different versions. There is one which is a longer guard and covers most of the barrel, which I don't really recommend. It just makes the gun very heavy. The front end is very heavy indeed. But the standard gun, which is cheaper, comes in different colours. This is obviously FDE. There's also a nice shiny white one and black and grey. Really is pretty much competition ready from the go. Quite impressively so. In this particular item, etc., they have a reasonably decent adjustable stock. They rattle around a little bit. They all do as standard guns, but it's still pretty good and pretty solid. And the distance, 16-inch barrel, which is pretty much, I think, sweet spot for a mini rifle, but you can cut them short if you need to, down to 12 inches for a little short barreled gun. It doesn't seem to make much difference in accuracy, but we are testing that now. And obviously details behind it, which we do like, which is the forward assist, which does work. It is actually, I have actually used it in competition as well to actually get that round in the chamber. It's more suitable for a 223, which obviously what these guns are originally made for. But in terms of being a bit of a match saver, having the ability to push that round home in the event of a misfeed or an event of not pulling the round off the magazine properly is really quite useful. Things like working dust covers, great, pointless, frankly. We're not in the army, we're not running around Afghanistan, so having stop dust getting there is kind of pointless, but useful to have it, I suppose. But really the main thing and the main reason why we've added this to our list of armories of guns that we shoot and we prepare and modify for people is the fact it's a full all metal gun. Therefore it feels more suitable to some people's arms in terms of how the gun should feel. The main reason is that all metal construction and the fact it is a standard AR platform in terms of measurements means that pretty much every AR upgrade from any manufacturer will bolt straight on. There are subtle differences. For example, some drop-in triggers don't work on these. AR Gold, for example, is too wide, it won't fit. But normally AR ones will fit. But as a standard gun, straight out of the block, with a decent optic on it, depending on what it be, few magazines, and they do run the Smith & Wesson magazine, which is by far the most logical thing to do. They do wear out. I change our magazines every year, and the range guns we go through literally about 30 a year in terms of all the days we do, because they're made out of plastic and they wear out. So having a Smith & Wesson magazine makes sense. 25. Kriss do a magazine for it, but it's only 15 rounds, so useful for a short stage maybe, but generally not really usable. And overall, it's the weight and the strength and the feel of it is very strong. We've done some cycle testing, perfect, no issues at all. You get the occasional light strike like you do with all 2.2s, and you occasionally get, example, we get a failure to eject, which is where it's basically pulling out of the barrel. 99 times out of 100 it's the magazine. or it's a combination of dirt and the magazine, one of the two. So I was quite impressed with this, to the extent that I thought, you know what, let's try shooting one of these. And over a period of time, I've added some changes to it, and I've created what I hope will be the basis of a good race gun for people to try for their Kriss DMKs going forward, which is this. Essentially, it is still a Kriss DMK. Okay, upper and lower is unchanged, the bolt and the action unchanged, everything else, the barrel is unchanged, the barrel fitment is unchanged, but everything else pretty much has been swapped, changed, upgraded for the purposes of competition. Now, as I said, you don't need to do any of this. This is 10 years worth of work and learning what works and what competes well, especially going from the Smith & Wesson side where I've done a lot of work over 10 years. So none of this is something you have to do, but it is worth doing if you're in competition. Certainly, most of what's on here was actually fitted onto my Smith & Wesson. The stock and the grip came straight off one, put straight on another. The ambi safety came straight off the Smith and straight onto this one, which is made by Hera. The trigger, we couldn't use the AR gold trigger that I use in the Smith, so we use a jarred trigger, which seems to work quite well on this one. Very happy with that. The rest of the kit, again, is all primarily from Hera. The muzzle brake, which again is one that we've worked with Hera for a 223 muzzle brake. It really just stops muzzle flip. Okay, this little movement of the barrel in terms of especially secondary shot placement is worth doing. So you don't get any recoil per se in a 2.2, but you do get flip. These help a lot. It's a timed brake. It's quite a big difference. I run an angled, a vertical foregrip only for shooting weak shouldered. Literally to go from one side to the other. I can shoot normally right-handed, but if I want to shoot weak shouldered, so my normal shooting position is here, I can't quite reach my shoulder. So what I do is I drop to the forearm grip and I shoot weak shouldered. So that way, that's the only thing it's there for. You'll see on the side there's a light. It's actually not, it's a laser. And this is a surefire laser called a TRL-8. Basically, all it is for me is for shooting from the hip. Okay, literally hip firing. Down here from the hip, you're shooting at targets that are underneath a barrier or very close to you. It's not designed to be any Call of Duty. Literally, you're not aiming the gun. Okay, so it may never get used in the course of fire, or it may get used a lot. So we use those. Other mounts are for our camera, because I obviously film most of my stages, and also for a bipod mount, where we are starting to see longer distance shooting, therefore using a bipod. And we've got a feature coming out what we do in those as well, because there are a few changes on there we run to. We run a Javelin bipod, which we'll go through in further details. Hero front end complete. As it's an AR, complete AR platform, all you do is buy the Hero kit, which is basically a different bolt, different forend, bolt straight on. Much lighter, a little bit narrower for my hand, because I tend to run an over grip, where I literally grip the gun with my thumb over the top of the barrel to stop that muzzle flip as well. But it's a bit lighter for me. Other than that, trigger's jarred, ambi safety. I use anti-walk pins. Not any problems in terms of walking, but I'd rather have it screwing in rather than falling out. The action is standard. Optics wise, this one runs my Hawk tactical scope, which is a 1:6 power scope. I normally have an aim point fitted on a 45-degree angle, but it's currently on the other gun, so I swap them back and forth. And then finally, again, this is a Hero Arms charging handle. Now, normally charging handles are this T-bar at the back. So if I show you on the standard Kriss, this is the T handle here. And it's, when you've got the scope there, it's not quite easy to get around, especially if you're left-handed. But what we find is that scope in the way, you can miss it and speed it up. So the Hero handle, which is not really designed for mini rifle, it's designed for 223 straight pulls, gives a much larger handle to play with. Okay, and literally very quick to go up, rack and action back. So very pleased with that. That's worked very well and significantly sped up some areas of the competition for me, mainly because you do get light strikes in guns, and you do get scenarios where you have an unloaded start, or rather a magazine in the gun, but the action forward. So you have to rack the first round as part of the course of fire. That's very common. Not common. And it's sided, so you can have it left or right-handed. Makes no odds. So this is going to be the main competition gun from now on, unless, of course, the Kriss Vector decides to kick it off its perch, as far as I'm concerned, for a competition gun. which we will start to do more now. We've done some work with the Kriss Vector so far. We're waiting for some bits to turn up from Kriss USA, different handguards and various bits. We've also cut down the barrel. So we're running with a 12-inch barrel and with a 6-inch barrel. And we're going to do accuracy tests, depend on how that works, and see what works in terms of the gun. But for the moment, DMK is winning. We'll shoot this, and I'll shoot this. And also we will start to offer upgrades and custom builds in our gun room for the same way we still offer for the Smith & Wesson. And again, same thing. We still build custom Smith & Wessons, we still sell them. Just because we've gone to Kriss doesn't mean the Smith isn't a good gun. It's not, it's an excellent gun, but it's lighter and it's polymer, and that's some people, they don't want to shoot a polymer gun. They'd rather have a steel all metal gun, which gives them a different choice. So they both do the same job. So next video we'll have coming up will be about the Vector, we think, or it will be some accuracy testing on the comparison, how these work, all different barrels. We're also going to do a strip down for the Vector, which hasn't been done yet as well. So thanks for watching. I hope it's been useful, and see you again soon. Okay, cheers.